For the introduction, tawarruk can be categorized as a two-stage transaction that take place among human beings to create a harmonious community. The buyer will buy the asset from the original seller through payment on credit at the first stage, then followed by the second stage where the buyer will sell the asset on condition where the third party need to make a payment in cash.
Type of tawarruk. There is three types of tawarruk. Firstly, tawarruk al-fardi, tawarruk al-munazam, and tawarruk al-masrafi. First type of tawarruk is individual tawarruk, or known as tawarruk al-fardi. The definition of this type is the process of purchasing a commodity that posed by the original seller to enable differ to anybody else except the original seller to enable the buyer earning cash from the sale of the commodity.
Next, I will talk about the type of tawarruk, which is organized tawarruk. Organized tawarruk can be known as tawarruk al-munazam. Tawarruk al-munazam can be defined as a procedure between the buyer and the seller, which is the seller will manage the cash requirement needed by the cash seeker, or can be referred as mutawarik. This type of tawarruk has two levels. First level, the commodity will be sold to mutawarik by the original seller to enable the deferred payment process. Second level, sell the same commodity to a third party by the original seller in order to enable mutawarik obtain money in the form of cash.
The third one is banking tawarruk, or can be known as tawarruk al-masrafi. It is a procedure formally prescribed by the Islamic financial institution IFI on the sale of commodities excluding silver and gold between mutawarik and the international commodity market to allow to deferred payment with some conditions that state the binding conditions in agreements or custom and norms governing the commodity. So, for example, the sale of a commodity by a mutawarik to a buyer who buys in cash will be handled entirely by the IFI, and after the sale of the commodity is successfully sold, the IFI will hand over the amount of money in cash to the mutawarik.
The majority of the Council of Ulama and Fiqh assume that individuals' tawarruk is permissible. In the case of the organized tawarruk and banking tawarruk, scholars have differing opinion and views. The Muslim World League resolution on organized tawarruk, it is not permissible to include an unclear transfer of the title of the relevant good. Meanwhile, for the banking tawarruk, there are those who believe that as long as it meets the conditions that have been stated, and there are also who reject the banking tawarruk by stating that it consists of some intrigue to bypass the prohibition of riba.
Next, a function of tawarruk. The first point is tawarruk contracts that serve to help the customer financially. Islamic function is to assist customer by offering finance using two methods, namely mudarabah and wakalah. Tawarruk, which consists of the mudarabah and wakalah contract that can prevent the occurrence of the financial that contains elements of usury. This is because interest is forbidden in Islam. Besides that, this contract is also one of the alternatives that can be used by the customer because tawarruk is a contract that has the flexibility and help the customer meet the current needs.
The second function of tawarruk contract is tawarruk also work by offering equal profit where both parties agree on the profit margin to be earned. In Islamic banking, the customer will choose and use tawarruk as they will receive profit in a proper and fair manner just outlined in the Sharia. For example, the bank and the borrower will be enjoy the benefits and also be the loser together, while other contract only get a mutual profit but the loss will be borne by one party only, namely the borrower. In the other side, this contract is like to selling the high-priced commodity to the buyer in a kind of installments and debt, and then the buyer selling the commodity to the third party at a cheaper price.
The third function of tawaruk is to replace the Bai al-Ina. Before this, Bai al-Ina was used in Islamic banking for credit card financing, but it was rejected because this contract have a kind of ila, which is riba element, that prohibited in Islam. That's why tawaruk started to be used in Islamic banking to avoid riba element.
Last but not least, tawaruk is often used to solve liquidity problems among market players. Financial institutions, especially Islamic banking, have created financial instruments that meet the commodity murabahah's liquidity conditions. In Malaysia, commodity murabaha has been designed for the first commodity-based transaction using crude palm oil CPO contracts as the underlying asset known as tawaruk, where it is used when a bank needs a short-term funds at once to facilitate liquidity management in financial institutions. As such, tawaruk is crucial to strengthen the management of liquidity requirements to ensure the bank's ability to maintain sufficient funds to meet its commitments.
To present the issues that involves Islamic financial institutions tawaruk, which have three issues. Among the issues to be discussed is Bai al-Ina. Bai al-Ina acts like a trade for lending on interest and can be defined as a contract or agreement involving the seller sales and repurchase of assets. Conceptually, it has two contracts. First, the bank and the customer in the sale and purchase contract. The asset will be sold by the bank to the customer at a different price installment. Second, the contract of repurchase of assets sold to customers. That is, the bank repurchases the asset at a cash price. In this context, it is as if the bank is acting as a creditor and will benefit based on the credit price and the cash price of the transaction. However, it is eliminated by moving from a loan contract to a contract of sale and purchase of goods because it is halal by Islam and can avoid the element of usury.
What is riba? Riba is an Arabic word and its mean excess, increase, additional, and the Quran and Hadith it is used for usury and interest. For example, a person lends a sum of money to another person and asks the debtor to pay it back together with an agreed additional sum of money within a fixed period, and if the principal along with the interest was not paid within that period, the rate of interest was enhanced for the extended periods, and so this enhanced or additional amount is riba. Classification of riba is divided into two types. I will explain each of it in details. Number 1, riba an-nasiyah. It is also called riba al-jahiliyah and it refers to the addition of the premium which is paid to the lender in return pays waiting as a condition for the loan. It is technically the same as interest, but this is the real and primary form of riba. Number 2, riba al-fad. This is also known as riba al-bay'. It is defined as excess compensation without any consideration resulting from a sales of goods. In other words, we have to exchange the goods with the same quantity and price, and if exceed, it's called riba.
We'll continue with ta'wid. In financial context, ta'wid can be defined as the repayment or compensation that arising from loss suffered by the financier of the delay or late of payment in the financing amount by the customer. Ta'wid only can impose on the party that deliberately or because of their negligence doing something that are out from the provision of the contract and that will cause the loss to the other party. In ta'wid, if have the late paying in financing, so it will be charging a fine in the form of money that must be paid known as compensation to Islamic banking, suffer losses due to delay of payment of an individual customer of the Islamic banking to pay the debt. That's all from me. Thank you.